Chris Olave versus Devontae Smith. I don't think they were particularly close in your rankings. If you have them in front of you, I think they were 4 or 5 spots apart.
They were.
I like Olave better than Devontae Smith. I've gone first each of the first 2 times. So tell me why you have Devontae Smith ahead of Chris Olave.
Well, let's start with the theme that I've been using quite a bit today, and that's consistency. Devontae Smith's been 14 to 15 PPR points per game each of the last 3 years. There's been an inconsistency factor with how he's delivered those numbers, but it's still something that he's done. There's obviously a target crunch there that has slowed Devontae Smith down, but he's gotten the job done. We're talking about 2 players that you'll draft as number 3 wide receivers. And we can make the argument that on paper, Chris Olave he's got the upside to be better than a number 3 receiver. But he's really only shown that in bits and pieces over the past 2 years, or past 3 years. He's been in the NFL 3 years. This is a talent who I liked a lot, but I can't ignore what I've seen from Olave over the last 3 seasons. His best season was 14.5 PPR points per game. We've seen Devontae Smith. He had 14.2 2 seasons ago. Last year, Chris Olave. Okay, it's a new offense. Derek Carr's there. This should be the year where Olave gets a lot of work, becomes the number 1 guy. He had 7+ targets in 2 games last year. He didn't play a full season, obviously, because of the concussions. He averaged 5.5 targets per game and didn't even average 10 PPR points per game. I can't unsee that. And even with Kellen Moore,
man, you got to get in. He had 2 games where he played like 12% or less of the snaps.
I know, but you can't ignore what happened in those games and say that it's fluky. It could happen again.
No, but if you're going to tell me how many targets he has per game, that's the whole point.
So go ahead. So if you take those out, what's the number?
44 divided by 6. It's like 7 targets.
Okay. All right. And so the one thing that I did want to say.
Oh, not 44, 42. It's exactly 6
it's
per,
7
per game.
7 per game. Yep. If you could guarantee me that Olave is going to be north of 7 targets per game, I'd feel a lot better about it. But this is still an offense that I've got questions about, from the offensive line to the quarterback, who's backing up the quarterback. Does Derek Carr play a full season? I don't have questions anymore about the play caller. Kellen Moore, I'm good with it. But I don't want to buy into Chris Olave for a 4th straight season when I know that Devontae Smith has given me some consistency. And going back to what we talked about 7 minutes ago with Philadelphia's offense, if they're not going to run as much in 2025, that means they're going to throw more. Maybe Dallas Goedert isn't even as big of a factor in the offense. He might not even be on the team. That would kick down the door for Devontae Smith to have a huge year. And so I'm taking the number 3 receiver that's gotten the job done for 3 straight years in a better offense.
I like Olave better because I think he'll lead his team in targets, and I don't think we've seen the best of him. And yes, only 7 targets per game. I mean, that's not even good. Like 7 targets per game in his 6 healthy games. But I would say we have to remember that Derek Carr played in 5 of those games. Derek Carr threw 27.2 passes per game. And there were 2 blowout wins. There was 1 game where they had the ball for 20 minutes. So they will throw more. But I won't go on my big, long spiel. I'm going to send it over to Jamie now. You tell me, Chris Olave or Devontae Smith?
Well, first off, if Dave's scenario plays out and Dallas Goedert's not there, nobody's taking Chris Olave over Devontae Smith.
So
unless they add somebody else along the way.
I got to say, I don't know. It's very weird because obviously we know the deal with Devontae Smith. Like, he's not that good when everyone's healthy.
And he's not that productive when everybody's healthy.
He's amazing when someone's out. But like Dallas Goedert has such a small role. You know, it's not like Goddard is it's not like he's Kittle. And this is
No, but there is that track record that when
I don't think
one of those guys is out, the other guy steps up.
I don't think Dallas Goedert's leaving the team. So this is kind of a move.
Okay.
I do think that, again, this is probably going to come down to how you draft. If you're looking for more upside, if Chris Olave hits in his offense versus Devontae Smith being what he's been in the same offense, based on what has happened to him, Olave's ceiling is higher. But to Dave's point, we just haven't seen it from Olave yet. So if you're going to take the more safe, you're going to take the safer route, then Devontae Smith is the safer route, because there'll be some games where A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert, or as we saw last year, both of them miss. Then Devontae Smith has top 5 upside. When those guys are there, he's more of like a top 25 to 30 receiver, which is why we're drafting him as a number 3 receiver. Chris Olave has the opportunity and the ability to be a top 15 caliber wide receiver, but it just has been small sample sizes of that. So if I hit 2 home runs with my first 2 receivers in the 3 receiver league, I'm probably going to take Chris Olave to try and see if I hit 3 home runs. If I don't have the best 2 picks at wide receiver because I just missed out on a guy, or went running back, and now I don't have the receivers that I like. Well, Chris, then it depends again how you draft. Does Olave make more sense because you're trying to hit the home run, or you want to get a little bit more of a safety factor? So I like Olave slightly better, but they're back to back again. It's very interesting that these are the receivers that we've taken. But it's like 20 wide receiver 26, 27, or 25 and 26, not ranked as starters. I just think that if Olave finally can get everything together, he's got a chance to be pretty special.
Yeah, I don't know if I still feel like he has a chance to be pretty special, but I do feel like he has a chance to be top 15 wide receiver. And it feels like Devontae Smith, unless A.J. Brown gets hurt, can't crack the top 15 because he never has per game. I think 15th per game was his best season. Let's just take a look at their best seasons. Both of them, it was their second season in the league. 2022, Devontae Smith, 95 catches, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns on 136 targets. Chris Olave.
He had 18.1 in his final 8 games with Goddard out or barely playing that year. So that's an example of Goddard being limited/out, what Devontae Smith could do.
Yeah, no, I know that's been the case, but Goddard had been a bigger. That's why I was optimistic about Smith going into the last year. It's like I didn't really think Goddard's getting old. He's not that productive anymore. Like he's not what he used to be. So I really thought Smith was going to take that step.
Do you know what Smith was in 2023 without Goddard?
He was terrific, right?
21.4 PPR points per game, 9 targets per game. It's 3-week sample size, but 3 weeks without Goddard.
And what did he do in 2 weeks without A.J. Brown? He had 2 games with like 7 catches, weeks 2 and 3. You can look it up. He was great.
I mean, I've got it right here. 17.3 PPR points per game in 10 games where either Brown or Goddard did not play.
Yeah. But in 6 games where they were all healthy, or 7 games where they were all healthy, he had 2 games with double-digit PPR fantasy points. So, yeah, I don't know. We kind of know what he is. Olave has not had a better season than Smith yet. That's the biggest argument against Olave, is like he hasn't even done what Devontae Smith did because he doesn't score any freaking touchdowns. It's so frustrating. Smith gets you 7 touchdowns a year. Olave would love that, but things can change. Things change with McLaurin. That was my comp for Olave. I thought he was basically a younger version of McLaurin. We just get to 7, 8 touchdowns, he's going to outproduce Devontae Smith. I feel confident. I don't know that it'll happen, but if he does get there, he'll be better than Smith. I'm just going to take the guy who I think is going to be number 1 on his team in targets. And even though Hurts is a better quarterback than Derek Carr, raw passing numbers, just because of volume, might favor the Saints. Marvin Harrison Jr. or Jameson Williams? How about Jamie? You want to start? Who do you like better here?
Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's close. Again, I think you're looking at the guy who could hopefully be the alpha on his team, and that's saying a lot because Trey McBride's pretty good. Whereas Williams could easily be third on his team, based on how Laporta scores touchdowns and Amara St. Brown and what he does. Run game obviously going to favor Detroit as well. I'm just more hopeful that Marvin Harrison lives up to the, prospect that he was coming into the league. I was encouraged to hear what Mike Renner said. We had him on last week, about Marvin Harrison and just the ability for him to hopefully have a year or two bounce back season. I certainly don't think he'll be as bad as he was in his rookie season. Whereas Jameson can disappear at times, so I just like the upside of what Marvin Harrison will hopefully be. Again, it's more about who's got a chance to be the alpha in his offense. And I don't think Jameson Williams can do that with the guys that are in front of him.
Yeah. Dave, this is kind of the same argument as Olave versus Monte. So
very
that's
true.
why I'm also taking Marvin Harrison Jr. And it really seems like this offseason, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s production is a huge priority for the Cardinals. Like, Kyler Murray has basically said, like, we have to get better. The two of us, we're going to work on it. We're going to work on our chemistry, this and that. So I'm hopeful for a bounce back. And it's not even St. Brown. He is, obviously who is. It's Laporta's presence too that gets me with Jameson Williams, especially in the red zone. Jameson Williams is not much of a factor there. So that's why I'm going Harrison over Williams. I think Williams' ceiling is a little bit capped by the target competition.
This is very much in pencil. We know that if Marvin Harrison comes to training camp and he's a little bit more refined, I honestly, I don't even know if refined is the right word. He's got to be faster. He's got to play faster. If he can do those things and earn more than the 6.8 targets per game that he had last season, then this is a slam dunk for Harrison. He's just got to do it. We've got to learn about it. We've got to see it. And that's the story. Like, if he can end up being the top target getter amongst everybody in Arizona and then be a factor on, longer plays like Jameson Williams, it's a piece of cake. If it's not happening, if he's not separating with speed, if he's not going to get that huge target volume, if there's talk about another wide receiver in Arizona, if there's talk of the run game being a bigger factor for the Cardinals, it's going to be a little bit harder to trust Marvin Harrison in that second year, because if his floor, I mean, look, both these guys could have a low floor, but I would rather have the receiver with the smash game potential of Jameson Williams, where he can have 4 targets, 2 catches, 150 yards and a touchdown, and then come back the next week and still get good volume the next week and give me a 6 for 88, something like that. We saw that from him a bunch of times toward the end of the year, which was when Sam Laporta started to get more involved in that offense. And I think there's another step that Jameson Williams can take as far as being more efficient on the target volume that he has. I don't have to worry about Jamo's speed either. And we saw enough from Jameson Williams to know that he improved as a route runner. He improved his technique on the field. He's somebody who I think can come back. And I don't know if he can have a better year necessarily. He was at 14.2 over the course of the season, but maybe a little bit more consistent. And if Marvin Harrison just doesn't take that second year leap, then Jameson Williams will be the guy.
What's interesting about this conversation is that I'm not really convinced that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a better player than Jameson Williams. It's like I've got conviction that A.J. Brown is a better wide receiver than Drake London, which, again, it's not a slight on London. Brown's amazing.
Right.
I feel confident that Nico is better than St. Brown, even though St. Brown is great. I just love Nico. I don't know. Jameson might be better. Like, Jameson's really, really good.
That's true. I've been playing fantasy for many years. I've been doing analysis for many years. The one thing I will say is that opportunity trumps talent.
Yeah.
When it comes to fantasy football and who you'd want to start. And so that goes back to, Marvin Harrison might not, Marvin Harrison is never going to be faster than Jameson Williams. He will never be as agile or explosive. But if he's going to see 2 more targets per game and he's going to work on his craft and, again, take that second year jump, then he'll be the better receiver for fantasy.